Now, if you've been trying to change your money situation, maybe doing affirmations, your vision board, mindset work, and nothing is really shifting, you're not dealing with a surface level money problem. You're dealing with subconscious money beliefs that were formed long before you ever had control over your financial life or from a traumatic money situation that maybe left you in a place where now you don't trust yourself with money. I will be giving you 7 simple questions that will reveal what's actually driving those subconscious patterns. Because most people think they need different affirmations or meditations or maybe completely different tools. What they really need is awareness of what program their mind is already running in the background, the one that's totally running the entire financial show. Because the problem isn't that you don't know how to make money, it's that there's just something inside of you that doesn't feel safe having it. So let's start exploring. If you've been trying to change your money situation, you're not actually dealing with a money problem. And here's what most people don't realize. You are not struggling with money. You are unconsciously creating your financial reality based on learned beliefs. And some of those beliefs may not even be yours. They may not even belong to you. They didn't start with you. They were absorbed from family, maybe from your culture, from some sort of repetition, from things that people casually said that maybe you never questioned. And this is where it gets interesting, because those phrases that shaped your relationship with money, they weren't random. They were programming. Things like, money is the root of all evil. You have to work hard for your money. More money, more problems. You can't make money doing what you love. Rich people are greedy. And when those ideas go in early enough, they stop being opinions and they become the instructions in your life's playbook. So now, without even realizing it, your system starts responding as if those instructions are true. And that's where the real pattern begins, because you don't just attract money or not attract money. You either feel safe with it or you don't. And when money gets linked to danger, to stress, to judgment, maybe even loss, your system behaves accordingly, not logically, just automatically. And here's where things start to get uncomfortable, but in a good way. Because when you look at your money life closely, you'll start to notice something that might be a little strange. The patterns don't always make logical sense. You might be one of those that earns money, but then loses it quickly. You might save money, but then you struggle to hold on to it. You avoid checking your bank account balances. You feel tension when money goes up or when it goes down. Like, are you watching the stock market or your portfolio or your bank accounts? And from the outside, it can look very random, but internally, it's not random at all, because your system is not primarily trying to create financial success. What it's trying to do is maintain what is familiar at an emotional level. And the brain loves certainty and doesn't like uncertainty. And it does like what feels familiar, and what feels familiar always wins out over your desire. So even if part of you genuinely wants to earn more money, there can be another part of you that is scanning for something very different. Like, what feels known here? What feels predictable? What have I already learned about how to survive emotionally? And if chaos, pressure, loss, or instability are what your system recognizes, then at an unconscious level, it recreates versions of those experiences, not because you want them, but because they're all familiar to your nervous system. So then what you end up with is this internal struggle or this inner split. Consciously, you're moving forward with growth, right? Unconsciously, you're protecting that emotional stability. what's familiar. And that tension right there is what creates this loop that keeps on repeating. And this is where the deeper mechanism part becomes clear, because money itself is neutral. Money doesn't carry a meaning on its own, but your nervous system doesn't experience it that way. Your system assigns meaning to money based on your past emotional learning. So over time, money stops being money and starts representing something else entirely. It becomes a metaphor. For some people, money can equal love, stress, control, freedom, pressure, responsibility, guilt, because that is how it was encoded through experience. And once that encoding is in place, it quietly starts running the show unconsciously. So now your responses to money, they're not really about money at all. They're about the emotional meaning your nervous system has attached to it. So let's just say if at some point money became linked with stress, you may find yourself avoiding it. If at some point money became linked with responsibility or pressure, you may feel overwhelmed even thinking about it. If money became linked with maybe selfishness or judgment, you may unconsciously push it away when money starts to grow. And here's the key distinction. You don't resist money itself. You resist the emotional meaning your nervous system has learned to associate with it. And this is why people start to feel stuck, because at a certain point, money patterns stop feeling like external circumstances and they start feeling like part of your personal identity. I've heard some people say, it's just how I am with money. I can't hold on to it. As soon as I get it, it's gone. But what's actually happening is deeper than identity, because most people don't realize this. You are creating your financial reality, just not consciously. Not only what you say you want, but what your system is currently organized to produce based on emotional memory, repetition, and what feels familiar. So the question now quietly shifts. It's no longer just, how do I get or make more money? It now becomes something more precise, like, okay, what pattern is my system repeating that is producing this exact result? Because from a subconscious standpoint, nothing is random here. People don't fail to create money. They consistently create whatever their internal system has been conditioned to repeat, even when that pattern shows up as struggle, especially when it shows up as struggle. And this is where something begins to open up. Because once you can actually see this clearly, there's a quiet but powerful realization that starts to form. Your financial reality is not just shaped by effort, it's shaped by what your system allows. And that changes the entire direction of the internal work. Because when we look closely, a lot of these patterns didn't start as business problems at all. They started as emotional learning. For example, like the little girl who started babysitting as a teenager. Normal thing, right? I did it. She's working, she's earning money, she's doing what she thought she was supposed to do. But every time she mentioned getting paid, she was told by her father, you don't take money from family and friends. That is not right. And because she trusted her father, that message just went straight in. No filter, right? This was her dad. So it became a rule for her. If I take money from people, taking advantage of them. So she kept showing up, helping, giving her time away, but quietly disconnecting from the act of receiving money. So now let's fast forward years later, and she starts her own business. She's got the skills, she's got the services, she's got the products or the goods, she's got something very valuable to offer. But something interesting keeps happening. She starts giving things away. She gives discounts before anyone even asks. She somehow forgets to send the invoice. And on the surface, she's frustrated and confused. She says, I don't understand why I'm not making more money. But her system understands because somewhere underneath that all, the old rule is still running. Receiving money for what I do isn't right. Maybe your belief is I shouldn't charge for my gifts or what comes easy to me. And I find those unconscious beliefs very true for a lot of healers and coaches in my line of work. So the pattern continues because the nervous system is still trying to stay aligned with what once felt morally safe, in alignment with their own family values, which is why things like fear and visibility and speaking up and charging and receiving are all internal safety patterns. And when those shift, your actions start to shift. And then when your actions shift, your results follow. So money becomes less about chasing and more about aligning with an internal system that no longer confuses receiving money with doing something wrong. Okay, so now we're going to stop talking about the pattern and actually let the pattern come through with the following questions. And you may want to pause this video, go grab paper and something to write with so you can write these down. But what I want you to do is I want you to go slow with these. Don't think your way through them. Just notice what comes up first. That's usually the honest answer, because the purpose of these questions is not to find the right answer. It's to surface what's already running underneath your awareness. So when I say take it slow, I just mean think about it, but don't overthink it. Let the first thing that comes to mind, write it down. Don't question it. Just notice what comes up. So here's question 1. How do you know you have a money block? How do you know you have a money block? And just pause the video if you need to. But I'm going to go on to question 2. Who do you know that has struggled with money? What stories have you heard about them struggling with money? Question 3. I want you to finish this sentence 5 times. Money is, fill in the blank. Money is, I want you to do that 5 times. Question 4. What does your future look like if you don't get this money block figured out? Question 5. What is the lack of money preventing you from doing? What is the lack of money preventing you from doing? Question 6. What do you believe about money? What do you believe about money? Question 7. What bad thing might happen if you have all the money you want? And I know so many of you are going to say nothing bad will happen. But here's what I've heard. If I make more money, I might have to pay more taxes. It's going to put me in another tax bracket. If I make a lot of money, my relatives are going to start coming out of the woodwork and asking for some. Things like that. So ask yourself, what bad thing might happen if you have all the money you want? And the reason we go through these questions in this way is very simple. Again, we're not trying to figure this out logically. We're bypassing the logical or the thinking part of our mind so that we can get to what the system is actually using as a reference for your money patterns. Because when you do this, you're not just answering questions, you're activating memories. You're connecting emotion to experience. And you're starting to expose that deeper level or that deeper root of the pattern that's been running in the background of your money program, of your money blocks. And as you move through this question, something interesting usually starts to happen because you can't stay in the present for very long. Your mind begins to go somewhere else. Earlier experiences start to creep up to the surface. Moments you haven't thought about in a long time, or maybe situations that felt emotionally similar, even if they looked different on the surface, because this is how your system works. Your earliest experiences create emotional coding, not just what happened, but what it meant to you at the time, the meaning that you gave to it. And most of that coding gets formed when you were younger, in childhood. in formative moments, in situations where you didn't have any context, you just had emotion. And in those moments, your mind gave it meaning about money, about safety, about worth, about what you can expect from life. And that emotional meaning gets stored really deep. So later in life, when something even slightly similar shows up, your system will respond as if it's the same situation again because it feels like it. The mind doesn't know the difference between what's real and what's imaginary. It's like data in, data out. It's just a computer. And this is often the point where people realize something very important. They realize this is where my pattern began. And this is the part where something often shifts internally. You start to realize the pattern isn't random. It was actually a learned response. One that was formed at a time when your system was trying to make sense of what was happening and also to keep you safe because your system's always trying to keep you safe. Your mind is not trying to create problems. It's trying to maintain safety based on what it has already learned. So even your patterns that feel frustrating, even the ones that repeat, even the ones you wish would stop, they're not happening to you, they're happening for you in the only way your system currently knows how to process that. And when you start to look at it from that perspective, it stops feeling like something that you have to fight, and it starts feeling like something you need to understand in order to be able to move forward. And just being aware of this is already the entry point. You've opened the door. And that matters more than you probably have ever thought about. It's important to understand that even when something becomes conscious at a conscious level, the emotional charge behind it can still remain. You can see the pattern clearly and still feel it in your body when it gets triggered. And that doesn't mean that it's not changing. It just means that there might be more layers to how this is stored in your nervous system. So what I've given you here is a starting point. Some people will go through these questions and things start to unlock on their own. Something clicks, a memory surfaces, their perception changes, and that's all they need to unravel everything. Some people are so in tune with themselves and they've worked on themselves for so long that it doesn't take long for things to start to unravel and fall into place. But there might be others who have less experience at that, or that they get to the edge of it and they can feel something there, but they just need help getting the rest of the way. And that's actually a sign that you're close. If that's you, I offer a free 60-minute consultation over Zoom where we can work through those questions together. I'll put that link in the description below. No pressure. It's just there if you decide you need it. Just remember, your financial reality is not random. It is the external expression of unconscious beliefs your system learned were necessary for safety. And once you discover it, once you can see it, you can change it. See you in the next video.